What's going on, guys? It's your boy Nick coming at you with a Springans Albaz combo tutorial and test hand video post structure deck Albaz Strike. I just uploaded a deck profile for this deck at the end of last week. I'll leave the link to the description down below in this video. If you haven't checked out that profile, please do me a favor and go watch that before watching this video. But with that being said, Springans is definitely a deck that got a huge boost from the Albaz structure, despite many feeling that it may not have had much of an impact. The Albaz stuff definitely synergizes extremely well with Springans, and it's all thanks to the brand new card that came out in the structure, Springans Kit. She is definitely the bridge between both themes, and it meshes extremely well together. If you guys are new to the channel, my name's Nick. We do live duel videos, deck profiles, combo tutorials, deck discussions. If that's things that you're interested in, then please subscribe to the channel. I'm working my way towards 300 subs and we are almost there. And it just means so much to me that you guys continue to return and watch my content. But I know that a lot of you that are watching my content have not subscribed. And honestly, please, there's really no reason not to. I'm going to continue bringing you guys really great Yu-Gi-Oh content for different kinds of decks, themes, strategies. There's bound to be something that you're going to enjoy on this channel. Just please give me a chance. Please subscribe if you wouldn't mind. Like the video as well. And with that being said, we're going to jump right into these combos. We're going to start off really simple with a 2-card combo. That's us having Great Saiyancy Gold Goganda, the field spell, and a copy of Springans Rocky in our hand. Hopefully you guys can see the entire field, but let's go ahead and move on. We're going to activate the field spell, Great Saiyancy Gold Goganda, in the field zone. And it states that if we control no Springans Xyz monster, we can discard a Springans card from our hand. Now, mind you, this doesn't have to be Rocky. It can be any Springans card, but for this particular combo, it has to be Rocky. Discard a Springans card in hand, in this case, Rocky. Then you can special summon a Springans Xyz from your extra deck. In this case, we're going to summon Springans Merrymaker. You're usually going to be summoning Merrymaker, especially if you're going first. You can summon X-Blower with that ability. However, there's no need to summon X-Blower going first because X-Blower is more of a game-ending card, being able to break boards. And going first, you're trying to establish a board, which X-Blower doesn't help you do. So in this case, we're going to go Merrymaker. When Merrymaker is special summoned from the extra deck, he allows you to send a Springans monster from your deck to the graveyard. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and dump a copy of Brothers. Brothers has an effect that when it's sent from the hand or deck to grave, you can target a Springans monster in your grave, except a copy of himself, and special summon it in defense position. So we're going to go ahead and target Rocky, special Rocky, and then use Rocky's effects. Since Rocky was special summoned, you can target a Springans monster in your graveyard, accept a copy of himself, and add it to your hand. So in this case, we're going to target the Brothers and add Brothers back to our hand. Now, if you notice something here, we literally just broke even in card economy. I mean, I guess you could say that we went neg 1 because we activated the field spell, but assuming it was already activated, all we had in our hand was a Springans Rocky, which we discarded. But now, we have Merrymaker on field, Rocky on field, and a Brothers in our hand, and we haven't even exhausted our normal summon yet. So we went +2 in terms of advantage on field, which is pretty insane when you think about it, especially when you haven't even used your normal summon yet. So that's what I mean about this deck, is that Springans looks like a fun archetype, and by all means, it totally is. It's extremely fun to play, but it can definitely make some interesting boards that most people probably otherwise wouldn't have guessed it could have done with just a simple interaction like that. And mind you, this doesn't even involve the new support yet, so this is something that Springans could have done always from the beginning, which is cool. But now, since we haven't normal summoned, we can normal summon the Brothers, and here we can do one of two things. We can either A, take Brothers and Rocky and overlay them for a rank 4 Xyz of choice. In this case, it's going to be Redoer, because that's what I play in my extra deck. I play Redoer in this deck because it's just another Xyz that can quick effect tag itself out like Merrymaker can, which can help us trigger the secondary effect of our field spell. But again, it could be any rank 4 Xyz of your choice. Or if we don't want to make the Redoer, we can normal summon the Brothers, and then instead of Xyz summoning, we can link both Brothers and Rocky off for a copy of Verte and Akanda. Oops, that's not Verte. There it is. Make a Verte, Then, using the graveyard effect of Brothers and Rocky, we can attach themselves as material to the Merrymaker on field, giving our Merrymaker 2 materials. And then we can go Verte effect, pay 2,000 points, dump a copy of Branded Fusion from our extra deck, from the main deck to the graveyard, excuse me. Let's just find it. There it is, Branded Fusion. Then we can fuse, or Verte's effect becomes Branded Fusion's effect, which lets us fuse. In this case, we're going to dump Albaz as the fusion material, and then use the Verte himself as the material to go ahead and make a Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. Now, that was literally off a 2-card starting combo. That featured Gold Gonda in hand and a copy of Spriggan's Rocky. And we ended on a Merrymaker with 2 materials and a Mirror Jade. Pretty insane when you consider... I mean, it doesn't seem insane, but this deck generates a lot of advantage. It hides it extremely well. Because on the opponent's turn now, what's going to happen is, Merrymaker is a quick effect during the opponent's main phase or battle phase. It can banish itself until the end of the turn. So it can dodge removal and whatnot. When that happens, it triggers the secondary effect of Golgonda to target a monster they control and prevent it from attacking. Excuse me, let me just take a drink of water here. So that can prevent us from being OTK'd, for example. If we can target a monster, it can just no longer attack, even if Golgonda leaves the field. Now what happens is that because Merrymaker, when he activates that effect, if he had 2 or more materials when he did that, he can send from the extra deck to the graveyard a fusion monster that lists Albaz as material. So we can literally dump any, our Sprins, Albion, Brigand are the targets that we play in the extra deck for that. So we played triple copies of Sprind. We actually bumped it up from 2 to 3 from the profile, something that we'll discuss later in this vid. We can dump Brigand or we can dump Albion off of Merrymaker's effect when he tags out, which is pretty insane because that's just going to generate us advantage at the end of the turn of all different sorts. And then not only that, we got the Mirror Jade, which it can banish a monster on the field non-target as a quick effect. And the cost is that we can dump a level or just a fusion monster that lists Albaz as material from the extra deck to the grave as cost. So even if this gets negated, you still get to dump the fusion. But if it doesn't get negated, you dump the fusion and you banish a monster non-target at quick effect. Mind you, it's a 3,000 attack monster that even if your opponent deals with this by any means, the only way that they can out it without triggering the grave effect is by bouncing it back to the extra deck. But assuming that this card leaves the field by the opponent's card, even if they kaiju it, during the end phase of the turn, you get to blow up all monsters they control. Just, fuck it, wipe their board. Why not? As if the card didn't need any more crazy effects. So, on their turn, if they play through this, they're going to get their board wiped, assuming they didn't kill you. They're going to get their board wiped. Merrymaker comes back at end phase. Then at the end phase, like I said, the board gets wiped because of Mirror Jade, and then you're going to get the floating effects of whatever fusions you dumped to the graveyard. Let's say we dumped a Sprind and an Albion, then Albion's effect, we can set a branded spell trap from the deck to the field. In this case, it can be Branded Retribution to set us up for next turn, or it can be Branded in White, for example, or even Branded in High Spirits. We can set Branded Retribution, and then off of Sprind, we can add to our hand or special summon from the deck a copy of Fallen of Albaz or a Spriggan's monster. So then at the end phase, we can literally special any Spriggans from the deck or Albaz himself, which means that if we did summon Albaz himself, assuming we had another card in hand to discard, because he was special summoned, we can activate his effect, discarding a card, to then fuse using a monster that they special summoned on their turn. Mind you, this is the end phase of their turn, and we can make a Sprind off of that. So that's what I mean about a lot of the hidden advantage that this deck is able to generate. And you would think that it wouldn't synergize with the new branded support out of the structure, but it does so completely well. And that's just a 2-card combo we started with, and we ended on so much advantage. But anyway, let's double back and let's start again with another 2-card combo. Let's say we opened... Let's just say we have Branga and we got Branded in High Spirits. Now, Branded on High Spirits is a card that I didn't give enough respect to. This card, moving forward, is a 3 of. I bumped it up to 3 after playing this deck over the weekend in person. This card is just gas, honestly. So let's just say another 2-card combo. We got Branded on High Spirits and a Branga. And this can be any Spriggans. It doesn't have to be Branga. I'm just using this as an example. Let's activate Branded on High Spirits. It says reveal a monster in our hand. In this case, Branga. And then send a level 8 fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard with the same type as the revealed monster that has 2500 attack or defense. In this case, it'll be Sprint, since all the Spriggans are machines, with the exception of Kit. But even if we did have Kit in hand for this effect, we could just dump Brigand, who's a beast, just like Kit is. So, like, we could still get a dump. Dump Sprint. Then, if that's all we want, that's all we want. We can end it right there, because the second effect is optional. We can send this to grave, and that's it. We get a free Foolish from the extra deck to grave with, like, no cost. However, we can choose to tack on this additional effect if we so wish. And that is, we can discard the revealed monster, in this case, Branga, and then we can add Fallen of Albaz, or one monster that specifically lists him in their text from the deck to our hand. So we can search, literally, Albaz himself, we can search Kit, we can search Albion, and we can search Incredible Ecclesia off of one Branded in High Spirits, while also getting a dump from the extra deck to grave. This card is, man, buy your playsets of this card. It is absolutely crazy. So, I mean, this is like one copy of Branded in High Spirits literally like jumpstarts a whole nother, like, there's so many different lines of play we can take off of any of these. Like, if we're going second, we can go Albaz, normal summon, fuse with their board into a Mirror Jade, for example. We can go Ecclesia, special summon if they control more monsters than we do. And then, like, if they try to, like, Imperm or Veiler her, we can use her quick effect to still special Albaz. So, like, again, playing around hand traps. We can go for Spriggan's Kit, which lets us, like, increase the deck's consistency by further letting us add branded spells and traps from deck to hand. Albion is, like, another cool card, being it like a Upstart Goblin with a Foolish Burial effect attached to it, which is, like, really nuts. So, like, one copy of Branded in High Spirits is, like, pretty cool. Let's just say we added Kit off of that effect. Then what we can do, assuming we had another card in our hand, let's just pretend that we did. We can we don't even normal summon Kit. We can special summon Kit if we have a fusion monster on our field or in our graveyard that lists Albaz as material. We have the Sprint engrave. So we can special summon Kit, then use Kit's effect to add a branded spell trap from deck to hand. And then we can take a card in our hand and put it on the bottom of the deck. Let's just pretend we had a card in hand. Should have been a 3-card combo, guys. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, there's just free real estate at this point. We can literally even search, like, branded fusion if we wanted to. And then just, like, go off from there. But there's some, like, really insane, like, 1 to 2 card or even 3 card combos that this deck has. And like I said, Spriggan's Kit is the one that ties it all together. As far as, you know, I wanted to explain to you guys that after I made the profile, over the weekend, I decided to test this deck in person to see what it was capable of. And the deck performed well. It did, I'm not gonna lie. However, I did find some areas that maybe needed some adjustment. And I went ahead and optimized the deck further after this weekend. So what we're going to talk about now before we do our test hand is what some of the changes were that I made. And we're going to jump right into it. I decided to cut Spriggan's Kit from a 3 of that she was featured in the profile initially to a 2 of. Now, you're probably scratching your head and wondering, like, why did I do that? Kit's, like, the greatest card, and she is. Don't get me wrong. The problem with Kit is 2 things. First, is she's really only useful early game. Like, she helps you get your plays jump started by searching you, like, your branded cards, which is great. Obviously, like, you want that consistency and that increase in ceiling with a card like this. The problem is that the longer the duel goes on, the more value she loses. And I know that sounds, like, kind of crazy, but let me elaborate on what I mean by that. Once you get your engine going, there's really no other reason for you to search like more branded cards, because once your engine gets going, it's very difficult to stop. So like she loses a lot of that value. Like, yeah, she lets you add something, but it's not just a free add. You have to add and then place a card from your hand and back in the deck. So like mid to late game, especially once your hand size starts to dwindle, that's not something you usually want to do. Also, another gripe that I had was, unlike all the other main deck Spriggans monsters, she does not have an effect that lets her attach herself as a material to a Spriggan's Xyz. That does come up sometimes. It's a little annoying that she doesn't have that effect, but it is what it is. I mean, she's a little bit different, but it's good that she's different. It's just not good enough to warrant playing 3 of her, especially when she's searchable through several different means. She can be searched off of Spriggan's Watch, which we played triple copies of. She can also be special summoned or searched off of Branded in High Spirits, which we also now play 3 copies of. So, like, I didn't want to have 9 copies of Kit in the deck. It's just kind of pointless. So cutting her down to a 2 of, I felt made sense for the optimization of the deck and just the overall feel. And I think that was definitely the right choice. So cutting Kit down from a 3 of to a 2 of made sense to me, at least. Also, we decided to increase Branded in High Spirits from 2 to 3 copies. Reason being is, as you saw in that combo tutorial, I talked a little bit about this card in detail. This card is absolutely cracked. I cannot believe that this card even exists, and I also cannot believe that people are sleeping on this card the way that they are. This card is nuts. It's a free Foolish Burial from your extra deck to the graveyard. It lets you search cards like Albaz from deck to hand, or Spriggan's Kit, or Albion, or Ecclesia, the tuner one. Like, it's just nuts. On a quick play spell. And even though, yes, it continues to add itself from the grave back to hand when a fusion monster is sent to the graveyard, even though it has that recurability, you still want to play 3 of this. Why? Because you want to open with this. I was playing this card at 2 initially, and after testing the deck in person, I decided that playing 2 was simply incorrect. You want to max out on this card. You literally want to have this card in every single one of your hands as often as possible. This card is really, really strong. I cannot understate how amazing Branded in High Spirits is. So playing 3 of it just makes sense. So that was another change that we made from the profile. And then also the last main deck change that we made was we increased Spriggan's Interluder from 1 of to a 2 of. Reasoning behind this is, again, I kind of undervalued the usefulness of this card. Interluder has a lot of text on it. All it says, the most important effect it has, is you take a Spriggan's Xyz you control, return it to the extra deck, and if you do, you can negate any card or effect activated by your opponent. It literally turns any of your Spriggan's Xyz monsters into an Omni Negate. That really comes up quite often when it's like, let's say, so for Merrymaker, for example, if you're unable to put at least 2 materials under it, so you can use like the dump effect it has on the opponent's turn, then Merrymaker, outside of banishing itself, doesn't really have much use. You know what I mean? Like, outside of just being able to dodge removal and like trigger some of your secondary effects of your Spriggan's cards. If you really want to maximize the effectiveness of your Xyz monsters, having a card like Interluder, just being able to turn any of your Spriggan's bosses into Omni Negates by shuffling them back into the extra is just awesome. Like, that's really cool. And it's something that I didn't really value much. So increasing Interluder from 1 to 2, I felt was the right choice. You don't want to play 3 because 3 will brick, especially since this card is searchable. But playing 2 felt right after testing the deck in person. Like, I think playing 2 of this card moving forward is the right number. And that's it for the main deck changes. We increased, like I said, the Interluder to 2. Oh, I guess another change I can talk about was I cut down on the quantities of Ash and Nib that I was playing. Ash and Nib are great cards, don't get me wrong, they're amazing hand traps. The problem is that you don't want to draw them in multiples. So when you max out on these hand traps, you run the chance of doing that, and that happened quite a bit actually. When I was testing the deck in person, I kept drawing duplicates, and it was getting a little annoying. So what I did was I cut them down to 2 ofs, and in their place, I decided to run a 3rd hand trap, which was Ghost Bell. I think Ghost Bell in this particular format is absolutely gas. And just playing like 2 ofs of individual hand traps makes makes it so that you can see the hand traps, but you don't see the same ones in like your opening hand, for example. Like you don't draw duplicates. It just minimizes that. And then now we get the chance to play a third hand trap. So now we have even more disruption potentially for our opponent's turn. So that was the only other main deck change that we made. The deck is still at 45 cards in the main. These are some of the cards that we cut. We cut the third kit, obviously, for the reasons that I already explained. We cut the Supreme Sovereign Serpent of Golgonda from the main deck. Reason why is because, yes, this card's a free extender. Yes, it helps you make rank 8s. The problem is that if the deck is functioning how it should, you're really not making rank 8s in this deck. If anything, you're making more rank 4s than anything. Making a rank 8 in this deck is kind of silly. Number one, because it's actually difficult to do. And number two, if you're going to make a rank 8, it's going to be your X-Blower. And you're not making that card properly. You're cheating it out with the effect of your field spell. So playing something like this is almost redundant, especially when this card does absolutely nothing unless you have the field spell active on your board. There were so many times when I tested this deck over the weekend that despite me having 9 different ways to access the field spell, I wouldn't see it. But you bet your ass I kept drawing this card and it was bricking me, so I just decided to cut it. It just didn't make sense. And then another card that we cut was Screams of the Branded. This card, I think, makes more sense in a strictly fusion version of Albaz, but since we do tend to Exceed Summon a lot, there wasn't much opportunity for this card to come up, especially when a lot of the fusions that are in the graveyard or banished weren't summoned properly to begin with, so we can't actually revive them with this, because, you know, those fusions were being dumped off of stuff like Branded and High Spirits, or Merrymaker's Effect, or like Mirror Jade's Cost, for example. So we decided to cut that because it just wound up being bricky. And one more thing I forgot to mention about the main deck change was we increased the count of Spriggan's Booty. I was playing 2 in the profile, now we're playing 3, and again, that's just to help patch the fact that we need to see our field spell. Field spell is very important. So playing triple copies of Booty now guarantees us 10 different ways to see the field spell from the deck or graveyard, which I think is pretty cool. So that was the only other main deck change that we made. Now, as far as the extra deck is concerned, we're going to jump into the cards that we cut. We cut Lubellion, number 38, and Bujinki Ahashima from the extra deck. Cut Lubellion because, again, I think this card makes more sense in a fusion-focused deck based around Albaz. We do play like a lot of Exceeds, and there's seldom a time when we want to go Lubellion to make another fusion, because even if you do that, you can't overlay for a rank 8 that turn anyway, because Lubellion locks you into fusions, regardless. Also, not to mention, Lubellion is the only Albaz fusion that doesn't have a graveyard effect when it's dumped, so like, there's no utility as far as that's concerned, so we just decided to cut it because it was pretty situational. Cut number 38 for the reasons like I said. It's actually kind of difficult to make rank 8s in this deck. I know how as silly as that sounds, but this never came up. I never summoned this card. Like, I was always going into X-Blower, breaking boards, and going for game. Like, there was never a time when I needed this, so we cut it. And then same thing with Ahashima. Never really a chance to summon this card. It never came up. And also looking into it further, Ahashima's secondary effect to pop a spell trap when an Exceeds monster detaches a material is cool. However, like, the card that you have on board most of the time, which is Merrymaker, doesn't detach any materials for its effects. So like, it never triggers Ahashima anyway. So we just decided to cut it. So in the extra deck, what we're playing now is a second copy of X-Blower, just because I think you want the second copy. You know, in case the opponent does out the first one, X-Blower is really like your main, like, board breaking, like one of your stronger board breaking cards. So just playing 2 of it just makes more sense. We added a Divine Arsenal AA Zeus to the extra deck, again, because we're playing an Exceeds-based strategy, and all of the Spriggan's main deck monsters attach themselves as material to Spriggan's Exceeds we control. Meaning that we can have an X-Blower or a Merrymaker with like 4 to 5 materials underneath it. Which then, if they attack, we can just go main phase 2, overlay Zeus, and have a 6-mat Zeus. Like, it's literally silly not to run Zeus. Now, if you can't afford Zeus, then I would say just stick with, like, the Ahashima then, maybe, or just any other extra deck card you think seems just. But if you have access to Zeus, this deck deserves to play Zeus, I think. It was kind of foolish of me not to include Zeus in the extra deck on the initial profile. Also, what we did is we bumped Sprint to 3 copies. Instead of the 2 copies. Why? Because we're playing triple copies of Branded and High Spirits, So that's another card that allows us to dump Sprint, and we don't want to run out of Sprints in the extra. We want to maintain like Sprint because we can go into it easily off of Albaz's effect, and it's just a really great card to dump off of different stuff. So maxing out on Sprint I think is important for this particular list, and that's mainly what changed in the deck, main deck and extra. So take note of that. I'll leave a link to this video in the original profile. That way people who watch the profile can watch this and realize that I decided to optimize the deck further post deck profile. So with that being said, let's go ahead and do a test hand real quick. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the content that I've been putting out. I worked pretty hard to bring you guys this content. As you can see, I like using the physical cards. I don't like using proxies. And like I said, just like the video, subscribe. It means the world to me. I really enjoy doing this kind of content, and hopefully you guys appreciate it as well. We're pile shuffling here live on camera, so you guys can see that I'm not trying to stack the deck or cheat in any way, shape, or form. But with that being said, watch us still brick. Wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Wouldn't be surprised. I'm even going to cut live on camera so y'all can see. And we're going to draw a test hand. Drew Kit. Retribution. Captain Sargus. Brothers. And Booty. This is our 5-card opener. Right here, guys. So let's go ahead. We're going to pretend we're going first. We're going to activate Springans Booty in our spell trap zone, and then we're going to utilize the secondary effect to send it to the graveyard to then activate a copy of Great Sand Sea Gold Golgonda from our deck or graveyard. What's cool about this is that it activates it. It doesn't add it to hand, so this interaction cannot be like stopped by something like Ash, which is pretty cool. So now that we have that, what we can do here is there's a few things actually. We can activate the effect since we don't control a Spriggan's Xyz, and we can dump a Spriggan's monster from our hand, or discard, excuse me, Spriggan's monster from our hand to grave. In this case, it'll be Kit, and then we can special summon a Spriggan's from our extra deck. In this case, it'll be Merrymaker. Again, if we're going first, Merrymaker just makes the most sense. We're not really going to be making X-Blower going first, obviously, since that's more of a go second card. But anyway, so now Merrymaker was special summoned from the extra deck. You can use its effect to then send a Spriggan's monster from the deck to the graveyard. And in this case, we are going to send a copy of Brothers. Now, Brothers will activate since it was sent from deck to grave. It'll allow us to target a Spriggan's monster in our graveyard and special summon it in defense position. In this case, we will special summon Kit. And now Kit, since it was special summoned, will activate. And she states when she's special summoned, she can let us add a branded spell or trap from the deck, the graveyard, or the banish zone to her hand. That's right, she searches cards like Branded Fusion. So all of you guys that were paying $100+ for Alubers, y'all silly. Kit does the same thing, and I think she's like a $4 card. But anyway, I guess we can add Branded in High Spirits here. And then the card we're going to tuck back on the bottom of the deck is Retribution, since we usually don't want this in our hand, especially going first, because it does require a little bit of setup. So now this is our hand. Keep in mind, we still haven't normal summoned yet. What we're going to do now is activate Branded in High Spirits. We're going to reveal a monster in our hand. In this case, it's going to be Captain Sargus. And then we're going to send a level 8 fusion monster from the extra deck to the graveyard that has the same type as the revealed monster, and that has 2500 attack or defense. In this case, we're going to dump Sprint, since it's also a machine, like Captain Sargus is, and it has 2500 attack. And then we're going to elect to utilize the secondary effect of Branded in High Spirits. We're going to pitch the Captain Sargus to then add either a Fallen of Albaz from the deck to hand or a monster that lists that card in its text from the deck to hand. So now we can add Albaz. We can add Ecclesia. We can add Albion, for example. There's a few things we can add, but for the purposes of this particular test hand, let's just add a copy of... Oh, you know what? Let's just add the Ecclesia. Screw it. There's a couple things we can do here, but we'll add the Ecclesia. Now, I know that some people stated in the profile that, you know, they didn't want to or couldn't attain the Ecclesia because of her price, and was there a substitute? To be honest, not really. I know that she's not needed for this deck, but don't get me wrong, she definitely boosts the consistency. However, I wouldn't recommend playing more than one copy of her despite that. If you don't have access to this, I guess a substitute would maybe be like Rocket Tracer, and then like you can play like quick launches or something just to give you access to like a level 4 tuner to help make like an Omega, for example. But outside of that, there really isn't another card I would consider. But anyway, so we add this to hand. Now we haven't normal summoned yet, so I guess we can do that here. We can normal summon the Ecclesia. Now mind you, she does have a quick effect where she can like tribute herself to then special Albaz from decks, which is pretty cool. But if we don't want to do that, we can do here, we can synchro summon using Kit and Ecclesia into an Omega. You know, rip a card out of the opponent's hand, for example, which is pretty cool. Or we can go all in, and we can also Xyz summon here too, I guess. We can make like a redoer if we wanted to. That's another option. Or we can just use both of these cards as link material for Verte. And I'm pretty sure y'all can see where this is going to go. We go Verte effect, dump Branded Fusion. And we'll put the Albaz out the deck just because we're going to need it. So we'll dump Branded Fusion, dump Albaz, fuse with Verte into a copy of Mirror Jade. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's not off camera. Then make Mirror Jade. And then we can go Graveyard effect of Brothers and Sargus to attach themselves as material to the Merrymaker. And now we have a 2-material Merrymaker, a Mirror Jade, and then at the end phase of this turn, we'll just pass turn, obviously, and at the end phase, Ecclesia will actually come back to our hand since a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn. And then, since we did the Sprindle trigger as well, since it was also sent, and then we can either add to our hand or special summon a copy of a Spriggans. But since we use Verte, we can't special summon anymore, so all we can do is add a Spriggans to our hand. In this case, we can grab a starter for next turn, like Rocky or something, and then pass. But we still ended on Mirror Jade and a Merrymaker with 2 mats, which means when it tags out, it'll Foolish another fusion from the extra deck to the graveyard. So that was it for the test hand portion of the video, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed it. For those of you that are wondering, if you're worried about Verte getting banned, or you don't have access to Verte for whatever reason, a good substitute for it would be Proxy F Magician. It's just a Fire Cyburst Link 2 monster that requires 2 effect monsters, but it lets you fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck by using monsters on your field as material. Just a suggestion. But that's it, guys, for the test hand and combo tutorial. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more amazing and awesome Yu-Gi-Oh content. Thank you again so much.